All right, here we go. This is episode 7 of Rice Unfiltered. And I just clicked off my screen, but that is right here. All right, and that's coming down in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back on Rice Unfiltered with Dunlevie Family Head Football Coach Scott Abell. I am JP Heath. Thanks for adjusting your schedule, Coach. The voice went out after the barn burner against FAU, and it's gradually coming back. So thanks for adjusting on the fly here.
I appreciate it. It helped me as well, JP. Yeah, it helped me as well.
Yeah, let's first off, coming up in a little bit, we'll talk about UTSA. We'll preview that and a get to know you, Coach. Rapid fire question or two. But just as you look back against FAU, Nate and I talked about how you wanted to have those big starts, and you defer. You keep winning these coin tosses, but this time you elect to have the ball and you have that big opening start. So at the beginning, was that the kind of punch you were looking to start a game with?
No, it's definitely what we were looking for, right? And it really started as well as we could have hoped. Chase made a fantastic read on one of our base triples, right? All the things we've talked about and wanted to see happened right then. You got out to a good start. So yeah, proud of that. But now you got to capitalize on it, right? You got to match it throughout. Everyone has to match that. And we gave up, a touchdown that followed to tie the game. Good for them. Had a couple penalties on that drive that kind of kept the drive alive for Florida Atlantic, which is unfortunate, but it's part of the game. And now you're back to an even game. But the game's now settled in, and so I love the way it started. I thought there's a lot of good takeaways from that game. And once again, year one, what are the things you learn and you can grow from, which every day is that opportunity for us.
Did you all adjust after FAU gets those 2 quick hit touchdowns? Veltkamp can spin it. I knew he was good, but he was a tactician there for those 2 drives when they respond. But then the game kind of settled into more of a defensive struggle. What did you all do to counter what Coach Kitley and company were doing?
Well, it was a low possession game, right? And I think we had 8 possessions. They had 9. I think. I mean, from what I see, not getting the field goal at the end of the half hurt. I thought opportunity to make it 17-10 was huge, and because and then we got to stop coming out of the half and we scored, right? So a really chance for it to be 17-17, and I just think that's a different game than 17-14. And I think we only had 3 possessions in the second half. And so we scored on 2 of them, and the one we didn't score on, we had an unfortunate holding call, the only holding call all night. We had a 3rd and 8. Chase, we had a called run for Chase, and he converts, and we get the only holding call all night and make it 3rd and 19. And there's not many call sheets for 3rd and 19 anywhere, but for us, we can't do that, right? And I've talked about that before. And so, it kind of it's another scenario where you just kind of run out of time, you run out of possessions, because you feel like you're playing better at the end of the game to finish things. And we got to learn those lessons. And, we did start better, but now we got to be more consistent and not get behind, right? We can't get down 17-7, right? And I thought, we moved the football. We had some bad field position, right? We started inside the 10 2 or 3 times. So we moved out on the other side of midfield once and didn't get and flip the field, and then they got a punt return, right? So, plays that you look back in a game, the punt return, which a really egregious missed call there on a block in the back on Peyton. Shouldn't have happened. We should have flipped the field there. Instead, they get the ball positive territory, right? They pin us back deep, and then we crawl out of there, get some first downs, use some clock, but can't sustain a drive for 90 yards, which we did that finally. We had a drive at 91 yards. And then we get that unfortunate play there. I thought that was big. I thought the punt return, the no call there was big. And that play there, the few penalties that kept their drive alive on the first drive are big plays. I thought the 3rd and 9 that we held them on, and then we got the unsportsmanlike on their sideline. I don't know really what happened over there, so I won't comment on that. But now they're either trying to field goal or they're going for it on 4th and 9 from that location, or maybe punting to keep, and they scored on that drive, right? And so, and then on the flip side, offensively, right, you want to make a few more plays when you have the opportunity. The missed opportunity, we had Micah wide open, right? Chase had to move out of the pocket just a little, which he did, but then Tommy stuck his foot in the ground to throw a little late. That's a big play that we missed on, and the missed field goal at the end of the half, and we didn't do ourselves any favor there because we got a penalty on 2nd or 3rd down right there that moved us back, and then we had to get back into field goal range. And had we not got that penalty and we gotten a little closer, maybe the field goal would have been easier. So it's on every group, but there are really 4 or 5 plays in all these tight games that I point to. But to me, man, I'd much rather, people are like, oh, would you rather lose tight and be in the game, or it just like, I'd rather have a shot to win every game. And we have given ourselves that opportunity. There's not one full quarter we've gone into yet this year where we feel like we didn't have an opportunity. We just need to get to the other side of that. We need to be ones in control going into the 4th quarter. And that's now the new focus. And so, every week we'll have a focus, we'll have a theme. We wanted to get off better last week. This week, we want a little more control as we're deeper in the game than we've had these last 2 weeks. Instead of playing from behind, let's try to play at the lead. Let's try to put the pressure on our, opposition.
That was on my list, so I'll skip ahead to that since you just touched on it. You've been so close in every game, and I think a lot of folks would say, hey, first-year program, be proud that you're in these games. Obviously, you want to win all of them. What's it say about this level of the program that you could be so tight in every game this year?
Well, I think it speaks volumes about our staff and our players, and they're resilient, right? I said to them after the game the importance of showing up every day, and they've done that. And they got to continue to do that, right? That gets harder if you're facing a couple losses. It's easy to show up when things are good. And I don't mean show up. Our guys show up every day, but I mean show up like excited to get better, okay? That's easy when things are going well and you got some wins on your belt. You're 3-1. Well, that week was easy for everybody to show up, right? And then so here you are, a couple losses back to back. You got to show up, and then one thing that we've changed, how do you handle the tough situations? And our guys are doing that really well. And I think they're mature. We're young, we're a very young offense, and we've talked about that till we're nauseous, but incredibly young and inexperienced. And I think they see on that side of the football, at least, they see so much value in getting better, which they have. And though they're small growths, and they are, but they're gross. Every week I can point to them, and by numbers, by execution, and defensively, we're mature, and and we're older and we're more experienced, and that gives us a sense of calmness during these moments. And so it's a really good mix right now, right? You got an older defense that gives this calmness to everything, whether it's good or not, and you got a younger defense that sees value. Younger offense sees value, and we're still learning this thing. We're getting better each week. What's it going to look like next week? And I think that's what you got to focus on. You got to focus on the things you can control. Scoreboard watching is not what we control. We want to do our job so the scoreboard looks better at the end. That's the goal. But if we're just constantly watching that scoreboard, then you're not executing very well. And so, we want to make sure that we're not scoreboard watching and we're executing.
Good life mantra. We say on the broadcast a lot, control what you can control. So evident in all aspects of life. But discuss Q-Jack a little bit. I liked him at the podium earlier this week, and he goes for another career high, buck 28. I think he had 124, Louisiana, 120-ish. Open up the season. What have you seen from the young man? He just he popped that early one, which you talked about earlier, but Quinton continues to press, and a lot of it is in the dirty yards. They're right in the middle, huh?
Well, and I talked about that in my press conference this week, that, it's easy to love him when he's outside the box because you see, him in space, which is special. But inside the box is really where I've been most impressed with him. A guy that is his size, that plays bigger than he is. He's powerful. And anybody watching can see what his value is going to be at the next level, right? He can be a great third down back at the next level, but he also can be that guy and get you some tough yards. And that's showing up every day. But the best part about Q-Jack is Q-Jack.
Yeah.
right? What an exceptional person, exceptional teammate. I could not be happier for him and his his successes. I'm happy that he's a part of our team. He makes everybody around him better, and that is one of the reasons why I think here you are at 3-3, but your team shows up like can't wait to get better. What's next, coach? Tell us. Point us in the right direction. We're going, and I think he's a big part of that.
Speaking of another guy that's really improving, Chase Jenkins, and I don't know the way to say it in your terminology, but he just seems more assertive, more aggressive. He has another season high, career high passing game. What have you seen from Chase here the last few weeks as he continues to trend upwards?
Well, kind of like Hugh Jack, he's a guy who wants to do everything right, and like Hugh Jack, Jonathan Wilson coaches our running back. He's done a great job with Hugh Jack, and I think Coach Porter has done a really good job with Chase, a guy who hadn't played quarterback in years, and each week really trying to help him grow and what he can handle next in the phase of offense, right? What a quarterback can handle is really what your offense can handle. And so I think the two of them have done, Chase buying in, having a great attitude, and just wants to get it right. He does. I don't know, man. He really wants to get it right. I think sometimes when he gets it right, it's because he's trying too hard to get it right. Sometimes I just want his natural ability to take over. So, but he is so concerned. We'll leave a huddle break, and I'll hear him talking to Coach Porter like, "Hey, what do you think the reads are? You think I'm reading it? You think am I seeing it right?" And and you got to love that kind of accountability on himself, right? You do. And like Hugh Jack, the thing that no one's talking about with Chase is how tough he is, right? He has taken some shots this year, and a lot of it's open field stuff is not really in the option game. He's not taking shots in the option game. He's taking shots when we throw the football, he scrambles, or when he lets it go. And he has shown a level of toughness that you have to have to play quarterback, and especially quarterback in my system. And that didn't show up in the stat line, but it would. I'm incredibly proud of that and proud of him. And it needs to continue to grow, right? It needs to continue to grow, and we'll work on that every day.
Halfway through the season, hopefully less than half with a bowl game, and you add the math, but halfway through the regular season, what are your thoughts, just big picture, as you're halfway through this? So much of the season to go, so many vital games. Yes, of course, we get that, but just is it about what you expected halfway through? And you're 3-3. Obviously, you want to be 6-0, 5-1, but just how would you grade things this first half?
Yeah, I put us somewhere in that B range. Is where I would put us. It's that's a really good question, and there's a couple answers. We're probably where I thought we'd be, where I'd hope we'd be. I don't think we got here the way I thought we'd get here at 3-3, right? So we're where we need to be. I think the things that surprised me, like there's no experience like game experience.
Mm-hmm.
Spring football doesn't do that. Camp doesn't do that. And that's one of the bigger lessons here for everybody is that, the real life experience, it means a lot in this program, and it means a lot for a new year, a first year staff putting in new schemes. All right. I think, there's nothing like real live reps, and that has shown up, and that's, you want to move faster, you want to move quicker, but at the end of the day, it can only move as quick as our experience moves. And, the experience is coming daily because of the youthfulness in some positions. And so, we're where we need to be. Is it where I want to be? No, because you change your goals, right? You start out 3-1, you want to be 4-2 going into this week, right? To be honest, but we're not. We're 3-3, but we got we got goals in front of us that are very attainable. We have a lot of good football programs left to play. There's no secret that the schedule is not kind to us this year, including the back-to-back road games to start conference play. No one else had to do that, right? And so now we go to UTSA. So, 3 of our first 4 games are on the road in the conference, and that is only going to make us better down the road. That's what I know, right? Like these tough moments will help us build calluses and help us build experiences, so we're better prepared for what the future holds for this year and for the future of our program, which I'm incredibly excited about. And that's, for me, getting halfway through year one, you can really start seeing what the future looks like right now because you got real data to watch on film. You have real experience. So the adjustments you need to make second half of the season, and you can start to see what the future can look like. And that's exciting for us, right? The immediate thing right now is we need to have a great week this week and then get to a bye week and catch our breath and then really evaluate, right? It's really hard to evaluate the front half of your season until you have that kind of time. And so next week will be the opportunity for us to really evaluate and say, okay, what do we want, the back half of the season to look like? How we're going to grow, what adjustments, and, probably bigger measuring tool coming out of that.
Speaking of UTSA, we'll talk about Jeff Traylor's Roadrunners here in just a bit. Hang with us here on the Rice Unfiltered podcast. Back right after this. Get a cough or two out.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. All right, second part coming down in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back on the Rice Unfiltered podcast. I am voice of your Rice Owls, JP Heath, the voice being ironic here. Coach, thanks for putting up with the old rusty windpipes. But hey, you gotta tough it out, right? We gotta grind it through here. But let's talk a little bit about UTSA and Jeff Traylor. You know his backstory as well as I do, and you've talked about knowing a lot of the other coaches on the schedule, but it's kind of a dichotomy. They're such a big rival. He's such a unique story. Have you gotten a chance to meet him or know him? I know you've probably known about his program from afar for a while.
Yeah, well, certainly known about his program from afar for a while. But me and Coach Traylor, at some of our annual meetings in the spring and in the summer was really, really nice. Very knowledgeable coach, really down to earth, right? Got a similar, you can tell a similar story growing up as a high school coach and get an opportunity to get into college football. And you know how much I appreciate that. Anybody that walks a similar path as you always can see, a lot of similarities as far as how they understand people in the game. And he's that guy, right? He knows exactly what he wants his program to look like. He's probably done every job within the program at some point in his life, right? He's probably he's probably been his own defense coordinator at one point, probably called plays for his offense at one point, somewhere in the back, right? He's playing trips. He's been his own strength coach probably at some point. All that I don't really know, but just knowing his history. And I just have so much respect for guys that have lived that life. And I got an immense amount of respect for him and his program. And, they're very talented. They love him there, right? It's a great fit. And, good for UTSA for holding on to him.
Heard in Andrew Alway in the presser this week talk about, from the player's standpoint, the sense of the rivalry. From the coach's standpoint, have you gotten a sense of what this I-10 showdown means?
Well, yeah, I've heard about it since really arriving here. And especially, when you talk about the history in Conference USA, and then now both here in the American, and just the I-10 corridor there and what that means. And so, I think all these games are great for your program. I love them. I wish every Saturday felt like that, to be honest. Guys get excited, coaches get excited, the fan bases get excited. And so, it's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm really glad we've played in some, playing Louisiana early on will, should help us in a situation like this. Playing at Navy, though it didn't go away, still playing in front of a hostile environment. Playing Charlotte on Thursday night to open up conference play. I said how, whether it's our opponents being really tough, the environment being tough, or the situation, it's just been a tough road start to our season, right? And we came through it 2-1. And I think all those things will help us, and we'll need it to help us going to San Antonio Saturday.
Yeah. A quick look at Robert Henry, nation's third leading rusher, so explosive. I saw a lot of that Colorado State game. You just look at the stats. The guy, among explosive players in the country, he's the most explosive. Just how do you try to contain him and limit his damage?
Well, man, we got to be gap sound up front, right? We can't get out of lanes. We got to be physical at the point of contact, and then we got to tackle well, right? We can't let him get it going, man. We got to try to keep him bottled up. give him those 2, 3, 4, 5 yard runs and really try to limit that. Be physical when we had the opportunity to be physical with him, and because he gets past that second level, it's hard. So we got to get to him early in the snap and contain him and corral him.
It's national TV affair 6:30 coming up Saturday night, ESPNU. Nate and I will have it as well in these same broadcast outlets. So I wanted to do a little bit of more this podcast format. We can go as long as we want, Coach. We won't keep you the whole day, but
that's right.
Get to know Scott Abell. I think fans have responded to kind of getting to know you off the field. And just for my own general information, in the 10 minutes of downtime you have in the off season, I know you're always all ball all the time, but is there a guilty pleasure Netflix show, Apple TV or Amazon? Like are there any particular shows you like to kind of decompress?
Well, I'll say that there's probably a dark crime scene side to our decompression in our house. I really blame my wife. She likes the dark TV, dark movies when it comes to crime, and so Ozarks comes out to mind. We've probably watched that through a couple of times. We've binged it a couple of times, enjoyed it. Narcos is another one, right? Both crime driven, got some dark elements to it. Those jump off at me. I enjoy more of the mystery side of it, but during the winter, I love college basketball. I'm going to have college basketball on every opportunity I get, to be honest. And then once we get through winter, spring, we're outside a lot. Yeah, I got to be honest. I love to be outside. I'm an outside guy. It's less binge watching and more. What am I doing outside today? And everybody warned me about the Houston weather all summer. I didn't care. I love getting out, whether it's at 9:00 at night playing some tennis with my wife, or going to the driving range when I got off work at 7:30 before it gets dark. I just, I typically will stay outside as long as I can once the weather allows me to. And then here in Houston, it allows you to a lot.
We already documented last week the tennis competitive nature you all have. But you mentioned March Madness. Growing up, were you a big Virginia Cavaliers fan, or did you have like a big college basketball team or college football team you followed growing up?
Oh, good question. Well, I will tell you, there's two parts to that. I really grew up a Clemson fan. I was born in South Carolina, and my family moved to Virginia when I was 5 or 6, and we moved to outside Charlottesville. My dad took over, his father's dairy farm, and that's what I remember. But what happened in that moment? Clemson was really good at football when we lived down there, and UVA wasn't very good at football in the early 70s at all. And so we had more Clemson stuff in my house early on, and that resonated with me. And my dad would take us to one game a year, usually at UVA, or I get tickets, and it was always whenever Clemson came to town, if they came to town. So I became a huge Clemson fan growing up. And then with Danny Ford, right, they won the national championship in 81, running a lot of option, by the way, for those that care. And it just fueled that, right? I was 11 at the time. And so I grew up a huge Clemson fan, but I would say more than just that. I grew up a huge ACC fan. When you're in the ACC hotbed your entire life with, I've lived right in Virginia, right next to UVA, and then Virginia Tech, and, the Clemson connection I just talked about, and then you're moving to Charlotte, right? So the ACC basketball tournament, I love it. March Madness, love it. I grew up going to watch Ralph Sampson play games, right? Pretty special, right? Dean Smith was at my high school watching Ralph Sampson play high school basketball. He played my high school league, not against me, but Dean Smith was there, Terry Holland, right? I remember watching Michael Jordan play against James Worthy, Michael Jordan playing against Ralph Sampson as a UVA, the one time we could go watch them play basketball. So in ACC basketball, man, back in the day, especially when the world went so crazy, I mean, you could see any of those teams make it to the Final Four, and Maryland and Lenny Bias. And, I grew up in that era of college basketball and loved it.
You're learning more about you each week. Your sports roots run so deep. We've talked tennis, pickleball, obviously your baseball prowess, and you can coach a little football. So it seemed like if it was a ball and you kept score, Scott Abell is a fan of it, huh?
I would say that's about correct. And I think anybody that knows me, from my high school best friend to my college roommate, they would tell you that. My family, like, it's just what I did. It's what I love. I I love racquetball in the off season. So, we have racquetballs here, courts here on campus. So for my workout during the off season, I typically would grab Coach Munch, who's I would say the second best racquetball player on staff.
Of course, yeah.
And I'll take him over there, and it's intense. If you've ever played racquetball correctly, it's really intense. So yeah, it is just one of my gifts that God gave me, the love of sports. Right?
Mhm.
Not being great at sports, but the love of it. And I do. There's just so many things you learn from it. And it just it's been a life full of joy around sports.
Amen to that as well.
Yeah.
Finally, wrapping up here on the Rice Unfiltered podcast, what is the biggest sporting event you've ever been to that you haven't coached? Like, did you go to a Super Bowl, Final Four, or anything of that ilk?
Yeah, no to those. Probably, I thought about this a little bit. I knew you were going to ask me this today. I went to, excuse me, podcasters, my phone. You know what that is? I'll talk about it. That's my wife calling. She had tennis today, probably to call and tell me if she won or not. Yeah, so we're a competitive family. She had a tennis match. We went to the Peach Bowl, 2000. I don't know, probably 2008, 9. Georgia Tech, Paul Johnson played Clemson. That was fun. I've been to some big Virginia Tech games. Professional. I've been to some Panthers games. I've been to now some Rockets games, some Hornets games, but nothing big to where like I've been in a World Series game or a playoff game of football or NBA. I wouldn't, me personally, I go to those more for the experience of somebody in my family that wants to go. I'd much rather watch them on TV. Like when it comes to big sports games, I don't want to. Yeah, like the national championship game, which is usually played around our AFCA convention. Like I don't want to watch it in a big setting with other people. I don't want to go down to the local bar and watch it. I want to go to my room. Like I want to watch it. And so I've shied away from most of those and dialed in from my TV.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Coach. Thanks for adjusting the schedule and get that win down I-10. We'll be talking to you soon.
Appreciate it, JP. Go Owls.
Rice Fight, Dunlevie family head football coach for Rice Owls, Scott Abell. More coming up next week. We will have a show on the Owls bye week. And stay tuned. More coming up on these episodes of Rice Unfiltered. Have a great rest of this day or night. God bless. Go Owls, Rice Fight. We'll talk to you on the next episode of Rice Unfiltered.